Good day. So in today's video, we will be discussing about the fundamental concepts in research. So what is a research? Research is a process of steps used to collect and analyze information to increase our understanding of a topic or issue. At the general level, research consists of three steps. First, pose a questions. It refers to the statement of the problem. So this problem are the topics that you wanted to study. For an example, is there a significant difference to the motivation when grouped according to profile variable? Or what is the level of conceptual understanding in sciences of grade 7 students? So that is a question or your problem. Next, collect data to answer the question. So it refers to the treatment, or most commonly known in most studies, it is what we call the administration of questionnaire or the instrument where you gather your data. Next, present an answer to the question. So when you have already gathered the data, you collected it, then analyze, organize, and present your answer to the questions. So the data that you have gathered are the answer to the questions. So remember that the answer should directly respond to the question you asked when you started your study. The instruments and procedures you will use should help you answer the question you posed. In education, research is very important. First, research adds to our knowledge. Knowledge in pedagogy, instruction, assessment, administration, and others. So, preferably, the literatures and studies that we should collect and read must be peer-reviewed or came from researchers. Somehow, it is more valid than the other sources. Next, research improves our practice. So there are numerous action research or experimental research wherein we try our intervention if it is valid, it is reliable, or it is efficient. So also, we can see the barriers between the practices that we do in education based from the results of our research. Lastly, research informs policy debates. Because of the data that we have gathered from our researches, then the previous fallacies may be subjected to studies or to scrutinies for it to be enhanced for the development and benefit of education. These are the goals of research: exploration, description, explanation, and predict. So first goal of research is exploration. It is finding out about some previously unexamined phenomenon. In other words, an explorative study structures and identifies new problems. In this type of research, the researcher finds answer to a problem that has not been answered or studied before. So the types of questions are: what is the full nature of the problem or phenomenon, what is going on, what factors are related to the problem. Next is description. So it refers to the data-based information gathering activities. Descriptive studies portray the characteristics of a particular individual, situations, or group. So the type of questions here are like this. How prevalent is the problem? What are the characteristics of the problem? What is the process by which the problem is experienced? Next goal is explanation. It reveals why and how something happens. It goes beyond description and attempts to establish a cause and effect relationship between the variables. It tries to explain the situations and the phenomena, or what are the causes of the problem. It also tries to explain the occurrences of the problem and why does the problem exists. Last goal is prediction, so it seeks to answer when and in what situations the event will occur. If we can provide a plausible explanation for the event to question, it tries to predict what might the outcome of an event or a phenomena in the future. So, if problem X occurs, will problem K follow? Can the occurrence of a problem be controlled? Or does an invention result in the intended effect? So, what are the purposes of research? So, the main purpose of a research first is to inform action. So, before we make a decision, before we do a project, there must be a relative results to the decisions that we will make. So based from those results or literatures, we can conclude what might happen, what are the plausible consequences, or what are the other variables that may affect the decision or the action. Next is to prove theory. For example, constructivism. Is constructivism effective or efficient in the K-12 curriculum? Or is there a need to adapt new theories in education that the students may benefit more? So that is proving theories. Next, contribute to develop knowledge in a study. Of course, if we do researches, we are contributing knowledge in many ways. It is obvious naman. Next is correcting hypotheses. We are making a educational guess, a logical guess. That is called hypothesis. Now, to prove our logical guess, we must conduct a study with a proper treatment, proper analysis, proper organization of data, and a right conclusion to our hypothesis. Based from these conclusions, then we can prove something. And lastly is to accept facts as truth. Lastly, other purposes of a research: to build a knowledge, to increase awareness, and to correct misconceptions or lies and prove facts. What are the characteristics of a research? First, the research should focus on priority problems, meaning that the study is timely, significant, and relevant, that may benefit the other stakeholders, and also enhance, develop, or produce something that may also benefit the academy, the society, and others. Next, the research should be systematic. Everything should also be logical. So the research should be reductive, it meaning it can be deduced from a general to specific terms. The research should be replicable, meaning that the methodology could be adopted by other researchers. that the data could be used by others. The research should be generative, meaning it should produce something significant. Maybe the method, a theory, a significant result, and others. The research should be action-oriented, meaning that its results is practical and can be used to solve a problem. Next, the research should follow an integrated multidisciplinary approach, meaning that everything is connected to everything. Everything is interrelated to everything, and it is dynamic and not just answers one discipline, but it is related to other discipline. The research should be participatory, yes. The research must be relative, simple, timely, and time-bound. The research must be as much cost-effective as possible. And lastly, the results of the research should be presented in formats most useful for administrators, decision makers, business managers, or the community members. So what are the use of research? First is developing or refining a theory. Second, generate knowledge. Third, applying or testing a theory. And lastly, solve a problem. So, magkakasunod itong mga to. So, there are two types of research depending on its uses. Developing or refining a theory and generating a knowledge is a basic research, and applying or testing a theory and solving a problem is an applied research. Now, we will use this example, use of visual arts in science subject, for us to fully understand the uses of research. So, let's try first to refine a theory that visual arts may be useful or not in a science subject. So, we will do studies that may prove its usefulness based from literatures or participants' response on it or perspective on it. Next, it may generate a new knowledge that visual arts may be useful or not in the science subject. Next, if we can prove its usefulness based from literatures or perspectives of a primary respondents, then we can apply it as a theory. So, let's test a theory by doing experimental research. So, use it as an intervention to teach a science concept and assess the students if they really learn based from that intervention. And if deemed useful and effective, if the theory is right, then it could be used to solve a problem by using it as an intervention in an action research. So, use visual arts approach in teaching physics to solve the dilemma and misconceptions lingering in the students towards physics. It is difficult to discuss basic and applied research separately as they are on single continuum. They are interrelated to each other and it is progressive. So basic research is the one that provides concepts that can be integrated to form a theory, a hypothesis, to solve educational problems. Meanwhile, applied research provides a sound, valid data to support guide, and revise the development of that theory. So the studies located in the middle of that continuum seeks to integrate both purposes. There are three types of applied research. First is the evaluation research. The purpose of evaluation research is to inform decision making about educational programs and practices. So it is a form of discipline or a systematic inquiry that is carried out to arrive at an assessment or appraisal of a program, practices, activity, or a system with the purpose of providing information that will be used in decision making. Next is for research and development. The major purpose of research and development efforts is to develop an effective products for use in school. So, they are trying to develop a more, a sound, and a new um, products for the purpose of enhancement and development of programs, practices, or the system. Lastly is the action research. The purpose of action research is to provide the teacher researchers with a method for solving everyday problems in their own setting. So these are the interventions that the teachers use by solving the problems they are facing in the classroom or outside the classroom. So there are two time dimensions in research. First is cross-sectional research. So researchers observes a phenomena at one point in time. For example, the pedagogy amidst pandemic. So the research was just conducted at that point of time during the pandemic, and the results are just observed during the pandemic, meaning it is only applicable during the pandemic. Meanwhile, the longitudinal research is examining the features of people or other units at more than one point in time. It can be 5 years, 8 years, a whole decade, decades. For example, the preference of music, the preference of music, or the preference of fashion. So, what is the preferred fashion in 1980s, in 1985, in 1990, in 1995, in year 2000, 2010, 2015 to 2020? So, I'm sure that the preferred fashion varies across the decades. So, that is a longitudinal research. So there are different types of longitudinal studies. In time series, same information ang gustong pag-aralan, pero in different people across multiple time periods. For example, what is the conceptual understanding of first year high school students in a certain poem, for example, poem of Jose Rizal, during 1985, 1990, and 1995. So thus the generation differs their conceptual understanding in that poem, in that same poem. Next is panel study. They observe the same people, for example, me. They observed me in several periods. For example, they observed me during 1995, 1998, 2000, 2003, 2005. Okay. Next, cohort analysis. Studies a category of people that shares same life experience within that specified time period. For example, um, ako, ikaw, at yung kaibigan natin, we have same experiences in um, taking architectural course. So, they will observe us during our first year, second year, third year, fourth year, and fifth year at the same phase. Next is case study. The research examines an in-depth many features of few cases for a long duration of time. So, any questions? If you have, you may post it in the comment sections. And please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. These are the references of this presentation. Also, credits to my colleague Miss Carmel Kasuga for preparing this slide presentation.